Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Going to talk to you guys about 2024 futures bets, win totals. You guys know the deal. I'm going alphabetical by team, by conference. We're in the SEC, and yes, Oklahoma's in the SEC now. So I'm going to tell you what I think of Oklahoma's regular season victories. If you look at the sportsbook here, they got it at 7.5, and the sportsbook is pretty sure Oklahoma's only winning 7 or 8 games. Like, that's what it says. They got negative money on both. There's really no way to hit big on this. And if you go look at it, you see Oklahoma won 10 games last year. 10 games, and they lost in the bowl game. So they won 10 games in the regular season. What's the big difference? The big difference is they're not playing in the Big 12 anymore. They're moving to the SEC. So it's going to be a, hey, you, welcome to the SEC party. And their schedule is very daunting. Now, Oklahoma. I want to take you guys back to 2022. In 2022, they were playing okay. And in their bowl game, I made a bunch of videos telling you guys, hey, what they just did against Florida State in the bowl game looked very encouraging to me. It looked like a team that's poised to go on a run and have a really good season next year. And this was Florida State before they were about to go undefeated. I knew both teams were going to be top 10 teams, and it just looked like Oklahoma was going to do their part to be great. And they did. They came out the gates 73-0 against Arkansas State. Nobody doubted that for a second. Then they go against SMU, and a lot of people were like, wow, they only beat them 28-11. Turns out SMU is a very good team, and 28-11 is a really respectable win. More importantly, their defense showed up that day, and their defense doesn't show up all that often for the rest of the season. Beating the piss out of Tulsa 66-17. Beating Cincinnati 20-6. Very disappointing. Did not cover the spread that week. I'm going to tell you how impressive this 50-20 victory is over Iowa State. Iowa State had a phenomenal offense. We didn't know that till the end of the season when Rocco finally, we looked at his stats and it was like, yo, this kid just threw for 3,000 yards. He's got receivers everywhere. They were figuring themselves out. And Oklahoma just put them on, like put half 100 on them. It's incredible. The next week, Oklahoma goes to the Red River Shootout and beats Texas. Are you kidding me? We know that's a playoff team. They beat them. But it's like one of those emotional letdowns. They had 2 weeks to prepare for UCF. They had a bye week. They barely get by UCF 31-29, and we knew it wasn't looking good. Then you go on the road. You lose at Kansas. On the road at Oklahoma State. You lose there. By the way, Colorado's going to go on the road against Kansas, play Oklahoma State at home this year. Colorado's not winning those games. If Oklahoma couldn't win those games, you don't have the horses to win those games either. Shout out to them. So Oklahoma loses those 2 games. Then goes out and blows out a very impressive West Virginia team, beats BYU in embarrassing fashion, winning by only 7 points. It's gross. The spread was something in the 20s. And then they go out there and put up 69 points on TCU. So they're very hot and cold. What you'll notice about them is they didn't really shut teams down. They really didn't. Their defense is kind of everywhere. They got to figure it out. You have a head coach that is a defensive coordinator, highly successful for many years, and it's just not getting it done on the field. Okay? Then in your bowl game, you go lose against Arizona. Noah Fafita, T-Mac, they're not playing with you, and they outscored it. Now, that was the very first game that Jackson, what am I saying? What is wrong with me? Jackson Arnold? My God. I'll never forget a name, guys. That's crazy. I'm a huge Jackson Arnold guy. Let me make this clear. I've been telling everybody for at least 2 years now, Jackson Arnold was the best 5-star quarterback coming out of his class. So coming out of high school, there was like 5 or 6 guys that were given 5 stars. Jackson Arnold's my guy. For the fact that I couldn't remember his name right now for a split second is insane because I'm talking about Oklahoma. I'm focused, I promise. All right. But how many games are they going to win in 2024? Well, it's going to be very difficult to predict. And the reason for that is Dylan Gabriel left. He went to Oregon. You have Jackson Arnold coming back. And in his lone start, right, against Arizona in that bowl game, he went out there and threw for 361 yards. That's pretty impressive when you think about how good Arizona's defense is. 361 yards. Unfortunately, he also threw 3 interceptions. That's never good. 3 interceptions is not good anywhere, anytime, unless, you're Caleb. Because they ignored all 3 interceptions he ever threw. But Jackson Arnold is a dual-threat quarterback. If you've never watched him play, he's tough as nails. I think he's a future professional. I love the quarterback room for them. I don't think it's that big of a drop-off from Dillon Gabriel in the sense that you can still call the same plays. You can still do all the same things, okay? What we learned about the running back room is an alpha male got to the top. Kareem is rising to the top. Gavin Sawchuk all the way up top, 9 touchdowns, ended up leading the team in rushing when initially, on their initial depth chart to start the season, it was Tawee Walker and Marcus Majors were going to be the starters. And I want to tell you guys, transfer portal, these guys go and leave. I think Tawee Walker went to Wisconsin, and Marcus Majors went up to Minnesota. And we already know that Tawee Walker is the starting running back at Wisconsin, or going to be in the 2 deep. He's that good. He's that impressive. They didn't anticipate him being that good, and he is. And this is where we start talking about how good are these running backs at Oklahoma, and I think they're pretty special. I think Gavin Sawchuk is really good. Okay, just so we're clear, and we're going to talk about it. But I think they have a really good running back room, and we never realized it because they all kind of look the same, but they're really good. You'll see. Wide receivers. One of the very best wide receiver cores in America. We didn't anticipate Nick Anderson having this breakout year. At the start of the year, he was supposed to be behind Farouk on the depth chart. You can see it here. Less receptions, but way more productive, leading the team in touchdowns with 10. Everything about him is great. Yes, Drake Stoops is gone, but Nick Anderson, Farouk, Andrew Anthony, the Michigan transfer, complete studs. And I'll go down the list when I get to the depth chart. But there's something like Petaway down here. You guys haven't seen him yet, but Jaquez Petaway is really good. He just keeps getting passed on the depth chart. And they obviously hit the transfer portal and got Deion Burks. And if you guys know anything about Deion Burks, well, he's a professional. Okay, there's that. Now on defense, everybody's back. I'm just going to tell you right now, everybody's back. Danny Stutzman, back. Kip Lewis, back. Billy Bowman, back. Dolby, back. Woody Washington, back. Robert Spears-Jennings, back. Peyton Bowen, 5-star, back, and teammate of Jackson Arnold in high school. Deshaun McCullough, 5-star, transferred in from Indiana, back. You just got so many players coming back. The whole defense feels like they're going to come back, but we'll talk about it one by one. So, looking at the depth chart, Andrew Anthony, transfer in from Michigan, gives you some type of threat with speed. It was supposed to be one of the fastest guys. Deion Burks is the one. He's taking top off the defense. Deion Burks is him. Love everything about Deion Burks. Leading receiver at Purdue last year. Complete stud. When you watch tape on Purdue, at some point you just turn on the tape and you watch it. You'll be like, yo, that's a professional. Like there's a bunch of college kids out here. That's an NFL guy. That's a Sunday guy right there. And I identify Sunday talent and I go, yo, that's one. You got one. Nick Anderson, Sunday talent. Jaden Gibson, still here. Brennan Thompson, coming in from Texas. Let me be right. Texas, yes. Brennan Thompson coming in from Texas. Complete studs. This wide receiver room is a problem. I think they're better than last year because it's the same guys, just more physically developed. They're better than last year. Jackson Arnold can get them the ball. I like it. Offensive line is very problematic. Now, watching them in the spring, you never saw the full offensive line. There was injuries. I saw Sexton. No, not even Sexton. I didn't see Sexton. Michael Tarquin was at left tackle. Tarquin's a transfer. It says he's a transfer from USC, but he really transferred from Florida 2 years ago, from Florida to USC, and then to Oklahoma. But this guy's supposed to be depth. He's not supposed to be starting. So the fact that he was starting in the spring is cool, but he's not starting caliber. I'm letting you know that right now. And I'm tired of all his transfers. Who did they move to guard? Oh, they moved Jacob Sexton to guard during the spring. So Sexton was playing down guard. Hatchett was not here yet. Hickman was not here. This is an SMU transfer, all-conference player, very good at center. I want you to know Joshua Bates was playing great in the spring. He was playing center. He was playing center. He's not there. This is a North Texas transfer, Fabici, and then Jake Taylor's stud right there. Now, they lost a really good player to Missouri and Caden at one of their offensive lineman positions. But for the most part, what you see is 3 transfers in the starting lineup, and they need to work together. And they need that continuity, and they don't quite have it right now. And that kind of makes you nervous. Okay? Makes you nervous. When your offensive line is struggling, one thing you can do to help them is have an experienced tight end. He can be a safety blanket. He can help tackles chip defensive ends. He can do a number of things from a coaching perspective or a scheme perspective. And I don't necessarily see that. They obviously got all transfers coming in. Some are studs. Some are pretty good. When you look at the transfer portal, some of these guys can actually play. They're just not the same as last year, so it's all new guys. Quarterback, you bring in an experienced backup quarterback in Casey Thompson. Used to be the starting quarterback at Texas, at Nebraska, transferred to FAU, got hurt. Now he's transferring back home. He just wants to be on the bench. I don't think he intends to play at all. Jackson Arnold's the guy. Running backs. Caleb Hicks is here. But I would be really surprised if Sam Franklin doesn't pass him. Sam Franklin looks the part. This is a UT Marshall transfer. Good-sized running back. An All-American at the FCS level. Coming in, he should probably pass up Caleb Hicks. Maybe. But Gavin Sawchuk's going to be your guy. He's good for double-digit touchdowns. I like it. Defensive line, all you need to know is when you start seeing five-star guys like David Stone down here at third string, he's making plays, man, when he gets on the field. Caden Woolard, the transfer from Miami of Ohio, all-conference guy from Conference 2 or from the MAC, very good player, and he's still third string right now. That tells me this defensive line is loaded. When you start seeing 5 stars and star transfers not in the 2 deep or not written up here, it's a problem. You got a stud from TCU coming in. I think they have a really good defensive line. They just need to rotate them and get after it. Now, to be fair, they did not do well in the spring game. The offensive line was dominating them early on, but in the second half of the spring game, they started coming through. They started running some stunts, started getting them tired, and you saw it take over. I need that defensive line to be relevant from the jump before I really, really believe in them. Kip Lewis, Stutzman, Dobie, all starters, all back. Some of the best on the entire team as far as leading tackles go. These are all leaders. It's unheard of to get all your players back like this. You don't see a bunch of transfers in here. You don't see them missing a bunch of guys. They brought back all their studs. Deshaun McCullough, 5-star, absolute stud. Love everything about him. Gentry Williams can play football. He can play. He's sneaky good. I think he might have had 1 interception last year, and Woody Washington had 3. But these guys can all play. Very good. And then you have Peyton Bowen back here. You got to get him on the field somehow. He'll find his way to the field. He's a good player. So all in all, what you see are tremendous wide receivers, a young quarterback who's probably 2 years away from his prime at the collegiate level, an offensive line that's being Frankenstein together, but a defense that's all there. Now, how good was this defense? They weren't necessarily dominant. And you're playing in the SEC where you're going to run into some problems. So let's go talk about it. Matchup for matchup. I meant to pull up the transfer portal additions. I pretty much talked on all of them, so I apologize. But we'll just go straight to the record. Okay, straight to the record because they have a daunting schedule. So first and foremost, they play Temple in week 1. They're going to beat Temple. They're going to beat Houston. They're going to beat Tulane. Those are both teams with new coaching staffs, and even if they didn't have new coaching staffs, they don't match up well with Houston. With Oklahoma. So that's 3 wins right there. Then they play Tennessee. And from my perspective, Tennessee just lost a starting quarterback. Yes, I know they have Nico. They just lost Jalen Wright at running back, and they have a great receiving core. But I think Oklahoma's strength, one of their strengths, is their linebackers and their secondary. I really do. I think they match up well with Tennessee. I really think they match up well with Tennessee, and I can see Oklahoma beating Tennessee, especially because it's a home game. So I got Oklahoma shocking the SEC, showing up and winning those first 5 games. Even on the road at Auburn, I watched New Mexico State do it. Don't tell me Oklahoma can't do it. I got them winning those 5 games. And then you have 2 weeks to prepare for Texas. They're not beating Texas, at least not from my perspective. I think they beat South Carolina, another freshman quarterback in the starting lineup, but Oklahoma just looks a little more senior laden. I think they can beat South Carolina. It's at home again. But they're losing to Ole Miss. They're beating Maine. And here's where it gets a problem. I got them losing at Missouri, losing against Alabama, despite having 2 weeks to prepare, and then losing at LSU. That game at LSU is going to make or break your decision. I could say winning, or I can say losing. I didn't mean to say it out loud, but I want you guys to count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's how you get to 8 wins. You get to 8 wins if you can beat LSU and Tennessee, along with not dropping a single game you're not supposed to drop. You can't do what you did last year where you dropped a game at Kansas and Oklahoma State. You got to win every game you're supposed to win, and you're supposed to do this without Dylan Gabriel. It just seems problematic. It seems very difficult. And if you're supposed to rely on your experienced defense to get it done, I'm not in the habit of believing that right now. So look how close this is. I literally just talked myself out of this. How you like them apples? But it's still going to be 1 unit, and it's not a lock. It's a lean. It's a 1 unit lean, and I'm going to go with the under. I think they end up winning 7 games this season in the regular season, potentially 8 if they win their bowl game. But 7 games, give me the under. It's minus 115. I went to go get the odds. That's all I'm doing here. So I'm on the under, minus 115 for 1 unit. Remember, black, if you see black text on the chart, that's just a lean. You don't have to necessarily bet anything. I'm just letting you know that we bet 1 unit typically on the purples, the value bets, and those returns are always going to be in the plus era. So all you got to do is go above 50% on all the purples and you'll make your money. On the greens, most of them are going to be in the negative. There's only 1 green I put here, and that was the under for Syracuse. I actually see them absolutely bombing, but they have them, for whatever reason, they have them at positive money on the under, which is insane. I think it's a bet worth making for at least 1 unit. I have another bet here on Indiana. I believe they're going to win more than 5 games. I told you 5 unit. I just really believe in Indiana. I could be wrong. I'm not perfect, but the percentages are going to weigh themselves out. We're going to keep track of everything. We'll let you know what hits, but this is not a lock. I have Oklahoma under 7.5 wins just because I don't see them beating Tennessee and LSU in the same year. Not this year. As a matter of fact, I just went ahead and locked it. I just locked it, y'all. It's a lock. It's a 1 unit lock. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all.